Welcome to this session on IEEE International Symposium on Young Experts in Service Computing. I'm Marco Nisetti from Università degli Studi di Milano. We will start with a distinguished speaker, which is Dr. Gopal Pingali. Let me introduce him. So Dr. Pingali is an internationally well-known technology and innovation and transfer executor with extensive experience in driving digital transformation across multiple industries, leveraging on cloud, AI, and automation technology. And Gopal is currently managing director for hybrid cloud at Accenture. He will give us a talk with the title An Intelligent Cloud Continuum to Take on the Biggest Challenge of this Decade. So I will leave the floor to Dr. Pingali. So please, let's give him a warm welcome. Please, Gopal.
Yes, thanks a lot. Thanks a lot, Marco. That was very nice of you. I'm delighted to be at the Young Experts in Services Computing Symposium. It is always very inspiring and motivating to learn from all the young experts and the emerging stars in the services computing area in this very important international conference by IEEE. So my topic for today is an intelligent cloud continuum to take on the biggest challenges of this decade. And I intentionally titled it this way because, especially for the young experts in services computing, it should be about what are the biggest challenges and what is the biggest impact that you can have in this decade and this very important decade that we are in. Can you hear me all right?
Yes, we can.
Okay, good.
Yes, certo.
Yeah, with that brief,
Se preferisci ti lascio andare.
I think the others should go on mute, please.
Yes,
I'm hearing some sound in the background, some speaking in the background. So thank you. Let me briefly, since we are talking to the emerging leaders and who are on their journey in this field, I want to very briefly talk about my own journey and how I have gone through over the past several years in this field. And if I look at my innovation and services computing journey, if you will, I started at the University of Michigan, and my first work there is not even shown here. It was on autonomous vehicles, and I was part of a team that led work on autonomous vehicles automatically following the road, following obstacles, and avoiding obstacles, and things like that, which we are seeing becoming a reality today. And my PhD was in AI for nanotechnology, just as this term was being coined, nanotechnology, and working with scanning probe microscopes and image modeling and restoration for those. But then I went on to work on a lot on applications of AI in the real world. And one of those was real-time people tracking. And I developed the first real-time people tracking systems in the world for retail and financial environments. And then went on to apply this also into sports. The retail and financial work got spun off as a company. And then I went on to, for some time, the labs for me were the different stadia around the world as I followed great players playing tennis, cricket, and these kind of games, and track the ball and the players and develop these ball tracking and strategy visualization systems that have now become a standard in broadcasts of sports all over the world. And this was very interesting work. And then I joined IBM, and one of the first work I did there was a precursor to the Internet of Things, looking at smart interactive spaces with a number of sensors and actuators and responding to user needs. And that kind of work then went on to a work project that I led across different divisions of IBM, as well as MIT, Georgia Tech, and University of California at Irvine, on real-time situational awareness with wearable sensors and the like. So this was very interesting, taking all kinds of GPS, accelerometers, microphones, cameras, different kinds of sensing technologies from people in the field, and getting real-time situational awareness at the individual, group, and organizational levels, and how we could form these intelligent chronicles of activity. So that was very interesting. And if you think of it, it was before the iPhone came. And so this was really looking at how the world is changing with this kind of mobile computing and wearable computing. But that all led to how do we apply this in enterprise, and what is the kind of computing paradigm that is needed to deal with this kind of volume of data from different sources, and the intelligent processing that needs to follow it, and ability to scale. So that then we saw that cloud computing is the way to go, and there was a big tsunami that was coming our way called cloud computing. So I got into that area, and especially around the same area, got into services, and said services is going to be what a lot of this cloud computing paradigm is going to be about, and what we can do for the world. So I was so one of the first things that came out is a first hybrid cloud for self-enablement for IT problems. So this was bringing all this intelligent mining analysis on a shared cloud with a shared service, central shared service, integrated into an enterprise environment. So this was truly a hybrid cloud that I had the privilege of launching. And that kind of journey continued into launching a cloud center of excellence, and looking at transforming many customers, many industries, many enterprises to this model, where they could advance their IT systems, transform their business with this whole model of cloud, and especially hybrid cloud. And that led to a broader expansion of looking at technologies across IT services and infrastructure services, and how do we have all infrastructure as a code, what kind of offerings and integration software that you need for the whole journey to the cloud. So this was the next big thing I was involved in as a leader of the worldwide global technology services labs, which was driving this cloud transformation, automation, and AI-based analysis, and proactive remediations and things like that. So a lot of that got into hybrid multi-cloud management that I was doing. And then I briefly got into a very different mode, where I did a startup and looked at what does it mean to have a cloud and AI platform to drive sustainable development goals and accelerate the attainment of sustainable development goals. So that was interesting. And currently I'm continuing to work on a hybrid cloud, and what I now call an intelligent cloud continuum, and how this can continue to transform the world. So that's my brief journey. So given the audience, I thought it's important to share my own journey, and so that I can share my learnings with you. With that background, let me get into a couple of important messages I wanted to give in this talk. And this is all in the context of, we have seen many revolutions. I certainly, from the previous chart, have been part of many revolutions. But what is happening now, as we are all seeing, is quite unprecedented in terms of the whole world, how it is changing because of digital technologies, and how our very lives all over the world have been affected by the pandemic. And so in this context, we need to look at this decade and the revolution that is happening now with very different eyes. So that's what my talk is going to be about. And to give context to that, one of the areas that I've been looking at and driving is the cloud IEEE International Conference on Cloud Computing for Emerging Markets and or Cloud Computing in Emerging Markets. And this is especially relevant because it's a services computing conference, part of the TCSVC, and it's now in its 10th year. It started in 2012 in Bangalore, and really started looking at how can these technologies be come from the emerging markets and be applied in the emerging markets, from the emerging markets to the rest of the world, and how it can be applied in emerging markets. So this is something we started looking at, and many of you young professionals and will have a lot to play in these emerging markets. So it's very important we keep that perspective also in mind as we talk about this. Now, so that gives some context and says over the last decade, since that launch of what has changed and how did things change over the last 9-10 years. And so very interesting, quickly we can see WhatsApp did not exist then. Now it has 2 billion plus active users and growing. And online time on computers, laptops was about 47 minutes a day at that time, 2012. And now it's becoming smaller. Interestingly, it's gone to 38 minutes a day. So people are spending less time on their laptops, but naturally that has been taken over completely by the mobile devices, which were 36 minutes a day, now over nearly 2.5 hours a day, 143 minutes a day. 6.5 zettabytes, about 7% of all the data was in cloud then. Now 30% of the data is in cloud, and that is 59 zettabytes. And 4G was just starting then. Now we are of course into the 5G is happening, and the mobile payments were active then, about $170 billion through mobile payments, $1.2 trillion now. Uber had just started, and then it went to 1.9 billion trips per quarter. It kind of went down a little bit because of the pandemic. It's coming back again. Kubernetes didn't exist. Now 84%, even more, have adopted containers, and Lambda did not exist. And now 50% of all AWS users use Lambda. And at that time, ImageNet had just started, and now we have AI with superhuman performance in several areas, as you know. So this is the kind of setting that we have. And where is this heading next? And where will we go next is really the question. And if you look at that, one of the big areas is how industries, enterprises are affected by the pandemic. And I'll talk about several areas in this talk. But if you see, there's a significant increase in the adoption of cloud computing as a result of the pandemic. And when you see me with a cloud first background, because what I'm seeing is, in spite of being a decade plus in cloud and many companies being there, so many companies have now taken on truly a cloud first paradigm, which saying absolutely we need to move to the cloud. This is how we need to operate in a post-pandemic world, and this is how we are going to thrive and succeed. And so whether it is enterprise or small and medium businesses across the board, it is now significantly higher than planned, the adoption of cloud computing, and that's growing from a $370 billion to $830 billion plus. There are different figures around this, but it is, you can see that it is approaching $1 trillion market around, and it is accelerated market because of this, because what is happening now. And if we, so there is an example here. So what does it mean for a bank, for example? They need to run an agile business, and because they need to be able to respond, they can never be again in a situation where their business is brought down by an event like COVID-19. And at the same time, they need to drive new revenue streams through digital and disruptive technologies. The infrastructure costs truly have to be reduced, and it has to be in a very different paradigm, operating efficiencies. These were things we knew, but this rate at which this is happening is dramatic now. And dynamic risk management, it's again that agile business risk management, and also the level of digitization and everybody realizing the world being transformed to digital, every single person from all the way to the most remote village becoming digital now, especially in the light of the pandemic, means that the large businesses have to compete with digital entrants, and which come with great speed, agility, and service offerings and new innovations that are brought to the direct to the mobile phone of the customer. So this is what the cloud computing is driving. But at the same time, what cloud computing means is itself evolving, and it is very clear that the new reality now is not just a private cloud or in the public cloud or a hybrid cloud, but it's really a cloud continuum. It goes from having on-premise private clouds and public clouds, but more and more, the public cloud is coming into the premise. Many technologies like AWS Outposts and Google Anthos and OpenShift from Red Hat and Azure Stack, many are enabling a public cloud-like capability in the premise and bringing that and blurring that boundary. And then the more and more you're getting the city clouds, metro area clouds, then cloud extending to the edge through 5G, and then going into the IoT devices and having truly what you can have ability to get a network edge cloud wherever you want. So this whole spectrum, this whole continuum is what is the new reality. And so we have to think about cloud computing very differently in this context. And in that, serverless computing is very critical, going down from not only getting resources on the cloud, but getting each function to be as a service and running in a serverless environment, being invoked as a service, and not pre-purchased in units of capacity, but consumed by application and by function. And this is going to be and doing this across this whole continuum that we talked about is the new cloud programming model challenge. How do we do that consistently and easily across this whole continuum? So that's the and a lot of applications, emerging applications. There are many that are already happening today. Reality of that, serverless being used in identity management, real-time communications, content management, relational and NoSQL databases, all kinds of monitoring, log management, telemetry, of course, file storage and DevOps and content delivery. So and we have serverless API management so that you can invoke all of this, and serverless workflow orchestration. So very interesting applications from many companies emerging here. But the emerging applications as we go forward with all this is IoT dashboards. How do you get end-to-end views of Internet of Things and the chatbots, intelligent chatbots to deal with these mobile backends? Then there are very interesting applications emerging for this decade because this is now we have to be as conscious of cloud computing as energy management, and what is the energy footprint and the carbon footprint of every application that we are running. And that again relates to climate modeling and my old and favorite topic of autonomous vehicles is now becoming a reality. And things and we all realize that keeping track and of pandemics is a huge area. All of these are applications of this intelligent cloud continuum, a cloud continuum that is spreading. And why call it intelligent? Because it has the ability to deal with data at the edge and at scale, and convert that into insights and actions at a global scale to deal with all of these situations we are talking about, and being able to model at that scale. So that is the intelligence spread across the cloud continuum that will drive us forward in this decade. So these are pictorial representations of all of some of the things that are happening. I'll briefly flash that and move on. We talked about Internet of Things. That is going to be other huge driver for us this decade, going from what was growing 25x in this decade. It is going from about 20 billion devices, connected devices, to in this decade we'll see it go to 500 billion connected devices. So it's going to be a very different ball game in terms of the again the paradigm of cloud computing, programming, and applications that will be fueled by this growth. So those are some of the biggest things that I see, my friends, in terms of what you need to focus on and look at in this decade. Yeah, what will this mean to enterprises, and what are some of the big use cases that we are seeing now? We are seeing use cases for cloud adoption, migration. I talk about cloud first and this new paradigm. So some of these are again, if we take one industry, this really spreads across industries. One is the digital and core applications themselves. So these are, if you look at that, it's the client-facing portals, customer relationship management, digital retail, small and medium business banking. These are the kind of things that get a 30 to 50% benefit by business innovation with the digital in the cloud. But the other huge area is big data ecosystem and analytics and machine learning that needs to go with it. And all of this simply cannot keep up with the pace of innovation, nor the scale of data and the ability to process it where it is needed without moving to this cloud continuum paradigm. And there's again a 40 to 70% benefit there, depending on which kind of companies and industries we are talking about in terms of business revenue generating and operational efficiency. The other area is data warehouse and reporting, again, because there is sovereignty, data sovereignty, regulatory compliance. At the same time, you need to have integrated end-to-end integration, visualization, and insights across the business and across what you do within a business and what you run in the cloud, and that FinOps and the efficiencies you get from there is again a huge driver. Some of the other areas are storage optimization. We talk a lot about that, and again, this paradigm builds security and data control upfront, and that gives you a 30 to 40% speed up in application delivery while ensuring greater security. And with this COVID pandemic, we really have seen the need for workspace virtualization becoming really exponentially increasing. And again, even in the very initial stages, those who moved into the cloud could get to 30% speed up in terms of their time to market in getting into this kind of a paradigm, into a digital workplace paradigm. So those are some of the things we have seen, direct experience with different customers in different industries, and what are some of the biggest things we are seeing. This is only the beginning of the game. And a lot more is going to evolve from this as we go into this decade, and you are going to be leading that. The other phenomena I point out is we talked briefly in the beginning about those 140 minutes a day on mobile phones. So about the statistics today there are over 4 billion. This is slightly old. There are over 4 billion people spending nearly 2.5 hours a day on social media. And that's astounding if you think about it. That's about 10 billion hours a day that people are spending on social media on this planet every day. And the question then arises, can we convert even 0.01, maybe 0.1% of this into something that is truly globally meaningful, impactful? What are the kind of things that can happen in this decade with this kind of empowerment that people have in this kind of power literally in their hands. How do we convert that with the power of networking and power of what they have in their hands? So these are some of the biggest questions you need to address. And again, the intelligent cloud continuum is the paradigm that will support that, but that's what we need to do. And if we look at that, what is the biggest, we talked about all the industries transforming into this cloud continuum model and how they will benefit and how we need to empower that. But the other aspect we can look at is what are our goals for the planet itself and for mankind, humankind. So there are the global goals for 2030. And these are the 17 goals you see here. These are called the Sustainable Development Goals, or also known as the global goals, which have been adopted by all countries in the world. And this is something that all countries have signed up for. And yet we are quite struggling to get to that, to the metrics and the levels of attainment that we have defined for 2030. And in 2021, we already see that we are behind. And certainly the pandemic had a big impact on that. But these are some of the most motivating, some of the most important things that we can be proud of achieving and attaining in this decade, whether it's no poverty, zero hunger, quality education, the sustainable cities and communities, affordable and clean energy, responsible consumption production. So it goes on, right? Clean water and sanitation. So huge challenges for which, again, all of these need this power of services computing with an intelligent cloud continuum. And it's not just philanthropy. So if you look at it, it's about a $12 trillion opportunity, especially across these four huge areas: food and agriculture. And there are many problems that are underneath that we are talking about. Cities, we talked a lot about sustainable cities and communities. There's huge opportunity there. The other big area is energy and materials, and the other is health and well-being. Just these four goals and these areas within that. See, look at the autonomous vehicles and energy efficient buildings, municipal water leakage, road safety, and traffic management. So many areas. And if you look at this digital currency and cyber and digital currency being ecologically friendly and environmentally friendly, all of these are huge challenges that need to be addressed. And of course, the pandemic has brought in a big way what we need to do for healthcare at scale, being brought to people where they need them at the speed at which we need it, and bringing it to the home and to wherever the people are, we just don't have today, in spite of all the programs that happened over the last year plus. So the other thing is that more than half of the value of this $12 trillion opportunity is in developing countries. So going back to my theme on cloud computing in emerging markets, it's particularly important. Whoever, wherever you may be, it's important to take this emerging markets, developing countries angle, because that's where a lot of challenges are, and a lot of the research and innovation needs to happen across the world in terms of addressing these challenges. So that's another important message. And it also is a huge driver in terms of creating jobs. It needs a lot of innovation, but you can see there's 380 million plus jobs that will be created by the opportunities around these sustainable development goals. So briefly, last few minutes, I'll just flash some of things that came from where do we stand in terms of these the development goals and what were the challenges that the United Nations points out. And I'll briefly refer to that. So in general, we were off track to end poverty by 2030, but because of this pandemic, it's even greater, and more people have been thrown into poverty. And so that's one of the challenges. Similarly, food insecurity. it was already on the rise. It's now become a huge threat to the food systems, as small scale food producers especially are hit by the crisis. But we've also seen how they're innovating, and those who are surviving and thriving are those who are going digital and adapting their whole supply chain. And I'm working with companies that are driving whole satellite based increase of crop yields, and also driving an end-to-end supply chain visibility from farm to fork. And these are the kind of players that are able to survive and thrive, and can actually get out of this and drive the world to a better level. Similarly, health areas we talked about a lot, and this is decades of improvements, so to speak, have been reversed by the COVID pandemic. But again, with this cloud continuum and the kind of a digital paradigm, we can completely redefine healthcare in this decade. That's one of our biggest challenges. Again, sustainability. This many of us see some of it. The reduction in traffic, the reduction in pollution happened in the pandemic, but there's more importantly our ability to track at a large scale. So there is a huge opportunity to build a more sustainable future, and there's very encouraging signs of how we can do that through the digital transformation that is happening now. And quality education, that's another huge area. Again, the biggest impact I see, and what we need to redefine in this decade, is how education is thought about, and I think it has to be transformed completely. Some of it has been triggered with everybody sitting at home and doing digital school, but it also has severely affected their development. But can we have a paradigm where both community experimentation, community living, interaction, wherever people are, can be blended with the virtual education, from the best quality of education coming from wherever, the best places in the world, and create this hybrid reality of education, the hybrid form of education that is truly effective and in sync with the environment and what people have to do. This can transform how education goes from even today's communities to the most remote corners in a much more effective way. So I think that opportunity is there, again driven by this cloud continuum. And one of the areas that has been called out is the data needed even to address these problems and understand these problems. And there's no data. It's very hard to even build a report and track progress in these areas around sustainable development goals. So this intelligent cloud continuum, one of the things it offers is people at scale being able to collect data from the field and report on the data and aggregate it and have a real-time understanding of what is going on across this planet. So that is also one of the biggest areas we can address through this, what will be a truly intelligent cloud continuum. So what can we do here? These are some of the challenges we pointed out. There is a huge opportunity here for you young experts, and I would also use the word E for entrepreneurs, because all of you can be entrepreneurs in your own ways in this decade to drive services computing innovations to market. And there's a huge opportunity there because impact investing has been growing dramatically, and there's a lot of investment in this area. So it's not without investment. And but there are these grand challenges for this decade. First, move all IT applications to a hybrid multi-cloud model, have the flexibility to run anywhere, be truly powered by a cloud continuum, and that gives you all the benefits I talked about earlier for industries and enterprises around the world. So you can be the leaders in accelerating this transformation, making it a standard across all industries globally. Now, the closely related is end-to-end visibility with Internet of Things and AI-driven hyper-automation that gives you visibility and ability to act and drive this from anywhere. And again, related to that is this notion of operations anywhere, from anywhere, and are happening anywhere with total experience. That means you are able to virtually put yourself and experience the problem and experience any environment. So this is the convergence of physical and augmented reality being available anywhere, so that you can run operations like never before. Now, the other challenge for this decade, every industry application, can we have carbon footprint tracking of every industry application? Today, we hardly do that. Can we do that with all its implications of the whole chain that affects every application, and at a very granular level and in real time, track the carbon footprint of everything you're doing? Then there's massive telemedicine at the edge. Can we really redefine healthcare to give at a very large scale telemedicine wherever it is needed? And finally, there is in this list, my list, there are many more you can come up with. There's the cloud-enabled integrated communities for a post-COVID world. I think this is a truly different community model we can think of. The city model, the village model is outdated in this new digital world. And especially in the light of a pandemic, we know that we need a much more intelligent, flexible community that is empowered with education, healthcare, and ability to work and manufacture all of that in a much more flexible manner, powered by cloud continuum. So these are the kind of challenges and opportunities we have this decade. With that, let me thank all of you and take any questions and comments.
So thank you very much for this very inspiring talk. Are there any questions? If none, I have some. First of all, thanks again for this very nice picture on the evolution of industries and sectors, even connected with COVID, which is very interesting for us to understand. And I would like to ask if there is any sector that specifically benefit for this cloud continuum the most compared to the others.
So I really think this applies across the board in many ways. I see its application to many areas, from like we are talking about right in this slide. If you think about this hybrid multi-cloud model, this is something that I personally am seeing a huge need for in healthcare, in financial services, in being two of very big areas. Banking, insurance, healthcare are very real in terms of needing for regulatory reasons, data sovereignty, that to be able to have, and because of all the existing investment, they need to do a lot of things on premise in their private environments. At the same time, they need to go to the right cloud, public cloud, and all of these areas. And especially if you take healthcare, we talked about how it is moving more and more to the edge, and how innovation and data analysis needs to happen at the edge to be able to understand the efficacy of healthcare, to come up with new medicine, and so that whole area is being driven by this cloud continuum. Maybe one other area I would call out is energy, and because again, if you really talk about the edge and how everything needs to be monitored at the edge, that again, it comes from the energy industry itself, of course, because they have to track this from the edge where energy is being produced and consumed. But it also applies to every industry which is having an energy footprint and being able to track that carbon footprint of every industry application. So it's not one sector, but probably the immediate areas I would call out are healthcare and financial services.
Thank you very much. Any other comment or questions? I have a curiosity.
Marco?
Yeah, if any, please, Claudio.
Yeah, this is Claudio from University of Milan. So thank you also from my side for the great talk. It was really informative and Very good. So I have a question related to this last slide, basically. All these aspects has some strong requirements in terms of security and privacy. For instance, I think about the massive telemedicine at the edge or the moving of the IT application to the multi-cloud model. So I would like to know if you see any new and very specific challenge that are emerging and that should be prioritized in the first spot regarding the security and privacy problems.
Yeah, absolutely, Claudio. Security is and continues to be the biggest challenge, in my opinion, because none of this, and we have seen this certainly I have seen it in my journey over the last 15 or so years, trying to drive this cloud paradigm. Now, it started with most of the people being very, very skeptical about moving to the cloud itself, because they saw that on-premise and private environments were essential from a security standpoint, and people were not at all comfortable with a cloud for that reason, and a lot of industries were hesitant. It went from there to most of the people realizing that in fact higher security is now possible in the cloud, because it has been designed for security. It has been designed with high level of encryption. It has had the scale to deal with virus attacks and malicious players. There's a continuous innovation at scale, and being able to detect, and the computing that is needed also. Cloud was much better positioned to do it, and could keep up with the security challenges. So the paradigm has changed over time, and as we go into this new model, it has to be that we go in with a security. The cloud first is also security first, because it has to be by design. And we have the advantage that we are already starting with that base now, and across the board, right from how somebody codes an application to automatic analysis of evaluation of security in every application, and security testing at scale. And especially as we go to the edge, like you said, from the massive telemedicine at the edge, it's both about having data being restricted to only those who can access it, and by design, and with end-to-end encryption. So these are the aspects by design, and we need to evolve this, and this is going to be one of the biggest challenges that is implicit in all the things I'm talking about.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you very much. I see that security is one of the biggest challenges here, but what about the others? I mean, managing challenges. Are there any challenges in managing the continuous cloud that you want to underline?
Yeah, that is a very immediate, and that's a kind of an underlying step here. So one of the things we are dealing with today, as we work with many industries, is more and more people, enterprises are seeing that they need to have that flexibility. And we are dealing with a variety of environments, from traditional infrastructure to largely virtualized virtual machine driven environments to what is truly modern with containerization, serverless, and cloud native capabilities. And so you need, on the one hand, to deal with this spectrum of environments that are the reality today, and at the same time, especially with the pandemic and the new model, every industry now wants to have when they're moving to the cloud, they want to have the flexibility to be able to move to any cloud and have the flexibility to move across. So in terms of management challenges, there are a few here. One is by design, when you migrate, you also modernize and give that flexibility. And the second is the common control plane that you need across these multiple environments. So that's one of the fundamental areas we're addressing. There are many paradigms that are emerging there. Certainly in the industry, we have players like OpenShift and VMware Cloud Foundation and Anthos, and to name three, and others emerging like Morpheus and so on, that are really dealing with this management of hybrid multi-cloud environment and consistent visibility, flexibility across this environment. So that will continue to evolve, and it will have to really be scaled massively to deal with edge, and that is something that's emerging now. And so yeah, that will be a big area for all of you to address, all of the researchers and the experts in this field to take on in the coming years.
Yeah, thank you very much. Flexibility is very important in general, but also in the connection with the possibility to move from one cloud to the other. It's very, very important as well. So thank you very much. Are there any other questions or comments? If none, let's thanks again our speaker. So thanks, Gopal, for your very inspiring talk. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much for inviting me, and all the best to all the participants. Thank you.
Thanks. So let's move to the next, let's say, subsection. We will have with us some speaker that will help us in understanding which could be directions for the growth of our community. So let's try to discuss with them some ideas and some possible, let's say, directions to follow. So we have with us Manan and Claudio as well. So let me start with Manan. Can you share with us your thoughts on how we can grow our community in the next years?
Thank you, Marco, for introducing myself to add my thoughts to this session. And thank you, Shangguang, for the excellent presentation that you did. This is very inspiring statistics, and I can start from the statistics that you have shared and made a big shift and transformation for the cloud services and the cloud computing. My name is Dr. Manar Abu Talib. I'm coming from different hats that I do. I'm research outreach department in University of Sharjah, where I do the outreach and communicating with organization to open the research work as much as we can globally and locally. And I'm also the VP for the Arab Women in Computing chapters, handling 19 chapters in MENA region and outside the MENA region to empower women in computing and to do things that is related to cloud computing, open source, and all of these. That's plus what I do as associate professor in the College of Computing and Informatics. And I can tell you that we can do a lot. Having the COVID recently made a big shift, and it just approved that we can open the communities and we can talk and we can add a great values for these communities to communicate. As I was discussing offline with the Prof. Rongshang, we can really have representative from each country. Especially, this is a great platform, this conference for the IEEE services, where we can all come and share backgrounds and share all of these information, pick up representative maybe for next year, where we can extend this panel discussion and include all of these representatives and try to close the gap and open, especially for the open source and the cloud and other fields, did very magic in the past years, a big shift. Plus the COVID, it proved that we can really talk. I will give real examples from our community where we opened up widely with several people, where we are able to expand the knowledge and to expand the research and to solve big problems in different directions. And Dwang, if you can add even more.
Yeah, thank you very much. So I fully agree with you that in general, the areas of open data and open source are very important for young experts in cloud computing, and will open also to new directions. And also the fact that we need to cover more different areas in the world is again something that is very important. So let me move to Claudio, then we can have another round of discussion. So Claudio.
Yeah, Marco, I have just a couple of slides that I would like to present, if possible.
Yes, please.
Okay, you should see them now. So first of all, I'm very happy to be here, and I'm Claudio Ardani. I'm a full professor at the University of Milan and director of an Italian National Lab on big data. I'm happy to be here because I was involved in the YES committee since 2018, when I chaired co-chaired the YES committee in Europe, and then take the co-chairship of the YES committee in 2019 and in 2020. I fully in line with the numbers showed by Shangwan, and I think starting this year, the first YES conference is a kind of has a kind of symbolic meaning, because in the last couple of years, many young researchers and students fight against the virus, the pandemic and the COVID-19 virus. And I think it is very important also for our community to provide a playground where a future star will grow up and will change, in a sense, our lives. We have a lot of challenges in front of us. Gopal mentioned some, Manar mentioned other. The playground is changing. We have 5G, machine learning, artificial intelligence, big data, security is really becoming an important aspect. And the services are an important part, a cross-domain aspect that we need to care and to address. So I think that YES will play an increasing role in the next few years. And I think I support the view by Manar and Rong on the diversity, plurality, and gender balance that our community of young researcher and student should provide. These young researcher and student will for certain become the fuel for our community and the hope for our community and for our world. And I think us as YES should be ready for the hopefully post-pandemic era where the young people will make the difference. And for sure, as I just said, the services will impact all of the research areas in which we are involved and touched by the IEEE services conference. And just to name a few in this slide, machine learning and artificial intelligence, high performance computing. We had some very interesting track, and you can join us at IEEE Cloud conference, touching a lot of aspects related to services and that are across domain. And for sure, what's next for YES? I think YES has an important goal to provide an ecosystem for these young researchers and for the student. And this ecosystem should target two main aspects. First of all, the engagement between young and senior. This is very important. the heritage from the senior researcher is very important to build the researchers of tomorrow and the next year. So it's very important to provide an ecosystem where young researcher can receive suggestions, hints, reviews for their idea and grow, and then improve the impact on the society and the next generation. And on the other side, I think the other side of the same coin, young researcher, yes, should provide an ecosystem where young researcher and PhD students can collaborate. The networking part, can exchange ideas and collaborate. An important aim for IESC, and I think Rong, Shangwan, Manar, all in this call share this view, is to put different students and young researchers together. And our expectation is that in the next year we will see an increasing number of joint papers that started during IESC, where the idea that started and was first discussed in IESC, then result in some papers and collaboration that will be presented to our conference next year. And last but not least, this would happen at any stage of the student and the young researcher career, just started or for the PhD student partially finished or almost finished their first step of their career. And finally, the technical issues. So Manar already introduced them. Open service computing is something that Rong told me many times. The open data that are becoming very important. We are in the data era. We are collecting an unprecedented amount of data, and we should be ready to provide those services for analyzing and taking value out of them. And then the service development and practical experience. As I told, young people is fresh. So they are very optimistic. They are trying and trying. So their practical experience could give some important value to our community. So in the end, my expectation is that IESC will grow in the next year, will incrementally grow, and I hope that this could become a central point, an important point for students to grow and to have their ideas impacting a lot on the community. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Claudio, for this very nice view in terms of community. I completely share with you the view that we have to build the community, letting them be together somehow and work together and exchange ideas, and we can let's say share open source and open data view in order to create open innovation as well, and to let them, let's say, evolve in their expertise in the field. And with this regards, I would like to let's say to do another round of thoughts. We are part of IEEE services. So what can we do with this regards in order to help in the evolution of our community with the support of IEEE services? I'm referring to workshops and eventually survey papers or some specific implementation-oriented workshops with DevOps, like for instance, as a topic that we can develop next year. So, what's your view about it?
I think each country has rich communities in the field of open sources and the cloud computing. And as Claudio, he mentioned in his slide, and I got inspired of what he mentioned, because the mentorship that we have between the senior researchers and the junior researchers is where we really need to start from. I will bring also real example from our university, where we have a research group dedicated for the open source. We have even the involvement of the youth, of the undergraduate students. It's not only master and PhD students who are working closely with our senior researchers, but actually nowadays the undergraduate have proven that they are able to be in the wheel of this, the whole research areas. And their rich experience in coding and in all of these top technologies, they take it like this. They are a big fan of all of these technologies. Sometimes we learn from them. So they bring up all of this passion. These youth are members in Google developer groups. They are members in IEEE branches of the students. They are members in SCM. They are in the GitHubs. They talk. They are having approaching all of these forum talks. So I think the idea is, this is the great platform. This is the great committee that you have. This is the great annual gathering to invite and to try to pick up all of these youth who are really the main motor, the main engine that they are doing all of this big change, and to invite them to have a special platform within a session like this one, to be extended with a representative from each country. That will bring most of them, and they are excited to share all of this. Nowadays, it is open. It's not only open source, but open data, but everything is open. And COVID, they did this shift, and they made it even in more progress, as in the presentation has showed the huge statistics. So we having all these capabilities. We are the senior who are connected to these youth. We just need to grab them and to put them in the right platform. They are doing already the great job. They are already contributing to the communities. They are already coding. They are already trying all of these open data. So how we grab them and put them in one platform, I think having this representative and dedicating a special session maybe next year, and we can work from today till next year to work on this community that gathers all of these youth in order to see how we can even empower in international level, having all of them, because they are already there. It's just about how to put it in a right ecosystem, right platform, combining the nice efforts that these youth are doing and delivering and making this image even clearer to everybody. They will feel proud when they feel that they are recognized in such a platform which is related to the IEEE services.
Yeah. I completely agree with you, and with this view, with let's say energy related to younger people that could help us, and we should deliver to them something that help in exploiting their energies. So, what about you, Claudio?
Well, Mar did a lot of things and basically covered almost all I wanted to say. But anyway, I support her view completely, and I think we needed to cover the entire spectrum. I think that the idea of the representative is very good. I think we need to cover the entire spectrum of topics that you mentioned, Marco. From survey papers to implementation and coding effort to DevOps and improvement of young researcher skills. I think IESC should be the environment to let cutting edge ideas and high risk ideas growing up. I think we should support in full our young researchers, and I think the next steps for IESC is trying to collect contribution from them in order to build an exciting program that could also inspire senior research. I think that the engagement between young and senior could be very relevant for our community and to increase the impact of our community. I think that the contamination between the two, let's say, population could be very relevant and fundamental for the next years of our community. Even because the challenges that we are facing and we will face are becoming every day more critical and every day more complex. So I think that this collaboration between young and senior people could make the difference.
Yeah, totally agree with you. Any other thoughts or comments, even from the audience? Is there anyone that want to contribute to this discussion? I'm seeing someone trying to open the mic. No? So if not, I thought that we almost complete all the discussion about the growth. For sure we will have additional ideas in the following days. So keep in touch in order to exchange the ideas even offline, so to speak. And I would like to thanks again everybody for attending this session, especially Gopal for the very nice speech. We have even this more industrial related view to think about for our community. There are a lot of experts, young experts in cloud computing, even in industries, and we should think how to talk with them as well, and to involve them in our community. So thanks again for everybody and for your contribution and very nice discussion that we had, and see you next time then.
Thank you, Marco, for moderating
Bye.
the session.
Thank you.
Thank you, Marco.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mark.
Yeah, so see you, Barcelona.
Bye, see you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Mm.